Welcome to the Theory of Knowledge broadcast. We air every Monday and Thursday at 5 p.m. My name is Ahmed Majib Kohistani and I am your broadcast host. Today, we have a very, very, very special guest. You might know who he is and some might not know. He is the infamous Al Hussein Imad from Cairo, Egypt.
Thanks for this kind introduction.
Thank you. So, Hussein, how are we doing today?
Good, great, actually. Really happy to be here.
Due to COVID-19 restrictions, he's not able to be here in person today. I'm so sorry for that.
Yeah, it's really sad. Hopefully,
Today, yes, go on.
I'll say it's going to be better next year, hopefully.
All right. Today, our topic, our knowledge question today will be, how does language change our perception of reality? And let me give you a real life situation for this, Hussein, so you can get a little more grasp and understanding of this, okay? Does that sound good to you?
Yeah, that sounds good. That would really help.
Okay. Now, to introduce our real life situation, for you as a person who comes from Cairo, Egypt, a bilingual country that speaks Arabic and English, English is the dominant language around the world. Um, you know, I would like to ask you if you noticed any differences in your personality while speaking each language. Maybe during English you have a different personality, Arabic you have a different one.
I do, in fact. In English, I tend to be more aggressive, maybe even rude, or say things that I would never say in Arabic. At least I don't have the courage to do
because a lot of my friends they speak two languages, and when they speak to me in English, their whole attitude and mood changes. So, I just wanted to address that real quick. Um, yeah. So, do you think that language shapes the way we perceive reality, or what do you think on that? Can you elaborate, expand on that, please?
Yes, first, I would like to share the quote that says, "To have a second language is to have a second soul." And just think about this for a
Oh,
moment. It's a
very,
really
very
great
interesting
quote.
quote.
Yeah, it's a great quote, and it kind of describes what a lot of people feel when they speak two languages. Because I have
Right.
had a lot of people talk to me about this from around the globe, and it's a global phenomenon. Like people who speak two languages do, in fact, have two souls metaphorically. So yeah, it's definitely a real thing. Um, and there have been some experiments conducted on this. So, for example, we can notice the difference between English and Russian. In English, they only have one word for blue, which is blue. But in Russian,
Right.
they have two words, one for light blue and one for dark blue. So when they tested on people who speak Russian versus people who speak English, people who speak Russian were able to see the difference between the two shades faster than people who speak English because they're more used to it. I mean, it makes sense like that. Also, in English, we use words like right and left, up and down.
Right.
For
Right. Uh
example,
huh.
yeah, in other languages, they use north, east, west, and
South.
yeah, and south coordinates like
Correct.
this. People from these
Yeah.
places are better able to know whether they're facing south, north, east. So they're better at getting directions. Like
So,
if
are
they're
you are you
sitting,
saying Are you saying that some language have a better sense of words? They're more descriptive and more on point compared to other languages?
yes, exactly, yeah, and they
Yeah.
can tell whether they're facing south or north just by
Right.
sitting inside the room. So it's definitely an advantage. Also, there's some languages that just harder to spread rumors. For example, in English, I can say a car accident happened on the road today. But in some other languages, I have to say whether I knew that a car accident happened by smelling, by seeing, by hearing about it, by actually being in it. It's part of the grammatical system. So rumors in these languages harder to spread. For example, in Arabic we don't have that. In English we don't have that, but some languages do, and just make it easier for them. But it also can make it harder in some languages when they don't have enough numbers to count. Like these civilizations, it was impossible for them to even understand algebra, the essence of being able to just make a building stand. Like they just can't do it because of language limitations. So that's also another problem. Also, uh, languages that require you to use masculine and feminine nouns, like any noun, it's either masculine or feminine.
Yeah.
And it definitely changed the way you think about masculinity and femininity. So, for example, you have a language that uses the word, like a masculine word for bridge and a feminine word for the moon. So you kind of have this sense that men are
Do you
strong,
think?
or
Yeah.
like
Do you think that's
anything
kind of?
masculine.
Sorry. Do you think that's kind of inappropriate in a way?
I
Do,
would say yeah, because the way it shapes the way people think about masculinity and femininity. They try
you
they
know?
start to
Do you know how like back in the day women were perceived lower than men, and now it's 2021. It's all people are all about equality between men and women. So do you think that these languages should erase these feminine words and masculinity from their language to make everything equal, or is this a real issue? Is this something we should be concerned about?
it's definitely a real issue. It's hard to solve
Do you think
though.
it could be offensive to some people?
It definitely is because as I was saying, it just gives you the sense, or it's just in people's head that masculine always refers to strong,
Yeah.
and feminine refers to weak. On how you use the
And I
word.
agree with you. It does change the way we think because, like you said, moon is more feminine, right? So it does change and give us a different perception of the moon since it's female. We might think it's soft and loving and kind, whereas if you referred it to a man, you would think the moon as something more bold. I totally understand your examples, Mr. Hussein.
Yeah, it's a really good point you're making, and I don't think they should be erased. Although you were saying that now the word is more equal, but if you notice places like uh, like Arab places or places where they speak Spanish, where there's like masculine, and feminine
Right.
nouns, it's just it's not equal yet. And also masculinity and femininity, sometimes it's used the opposite. Femininity and feminine nouns are used to describe stronger things, and masculine nouns describe weaker things or beautiful things or quiet things. So it definitely goes both ways.
Right.
So how about instead of like looking at languages and comparing them, how about we talk about phrases within the language itself? Because that also makes difference. Like, okay, you speak different languages, of course, gonna be different. Like, can you speak one language and use two different words and make a difference?
Right.
Or,
Well, Mr. Hussein, you know that I am the host, right? So
yeah,
I should be the one asking the questions. But since you're a special guest, I will answer your questions. Well, yeah, for sure, definitely. Depending on the severity of the word, warm and hot. When you say warm, you think of it's whatever you can go with long sleeves or whatever. But when you think of the word hot, you think of a beach, nice hot summer day. So this changes our perception of reality because we have to be prepared for our reality. We have to know we have to know something that's specific. Otherwise, it won't shape our true reality. And this is where I get into how truth, how truth, how language and truth are compared with each other and how they connect. Because the language does shape the truth. It does see it shapes our future and what we think about it. So it's very important that that we give accurate descriptions of words and stuff like that to help us understand. There was a recent study, not recent, sorry. There was a study called Loftus and Palmer with the car crashes, right? So they would make the car go at one speed, and they would make people see it. And if the car was going 5 miles per hour and would hit it, they would ask the uh, people if this was a crash or did the car bump another car. And some put down bump and some wrote down crash. And then there was another one where they went 50 miles per hour and stuff, even a faster speed, and they crashed. And then they would say, did this car bump or did this car crash? Crash makes it sound more severe, whereas the bump sees where if you use the word bump, it comes out as more minor.
Yeah, more
So
softer.
yeah, so it's like, hey, if you say bump, like, okay, our reality is, hey, everything is okay, it's fine. But when you say crash, our reality becomes scarce, becomes scared, desperation. You hope everyone is okay. It changes our whole attitude and the way we react. Um, so we have to use our choice of words, especially if you're someone in the government or in a high place, because what word you use it has cause and effects. It has ramifications to what they lead up to. Um, also, Mr. Hussein,
Uh-huh.
some ways of knowing we can have this is definitely memory and language and reason as well. Let me tell you why it's memory for the ways of knowing. It's memory because we use our past experiences to describe what we've just seen with our language. Our language helps us communicate what we've seen, and we use reason to say why. Uh, we use reason to help us justify why it was a crash or why it was a bump. you know so it it all these three are three key factors of ways of knowing, because all these three play a big role. And as for areas of knowledge, definitely human sciences, because of the Loftus and Palmer study. This was definitely a psychological thing, because it was a study on humans, obviously, so it's very psychological. And another example of this is on January 9th, when the Capitol got raided by the Trump supporters. Right, correct. They use the term insurrection, they use the term siege, a protest. It escalated very quick. First, it was seen as a protest, then it was seen as a siege, then it was seen as an insurrection. It just escalated and elevated as time went on. And as time went on, our words got more severe to help us understand how the situation escalated and what was the situation going on. So for our language is important to choose, Mr. Hussein. Wouldn't you agree with me?
I definitely do. And I've always wondered, like, if I learned a new language, would I think in a different way? And maybe that's a question for another
I
time.
mean, I mean, you already speak two languages, so if you learn a third one, I mean, yeah. I mean, personally, me, I speak Farsi myself, and to add on to your point about Arabic and English, much more respectful,
Definitely.
and kind. Yeah. So yeah. So, Mr. Hussein, is that all for today, or do you have anything else to add to our interview?
No, I think that's it for today. I've shared everything in
Okay.
my head.
Then I will end the broadcast. Thank you all for coming to my broadcast. I will catch you next time on Theory of Knowledge. Remember, subscribe and like. Nice talking to you all. Nice talking to you, Mr. Hain. Mr. Hussein. Have a good day to you, sir.
You too. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Anytime.